Everybody speaks a different language. Even identical two twins, right, within the same family, living in the same house, born on the same date, they speak different language, right? And there are communities which speak different languages, right? Idiosyncratic differences, which are individual differences, they are less important for transcription. But community differences, like the differences which are on the basis of geographical area, right, geographical regions, then those accents, those dialects are really important to be known to phonetics and phonology experts, right? So what is an accent? Accent is basically the difference in speech, right? Like the community identification when it comes to, the socio-linguistic aspect of a community or a language, right? Accent is the identification. Like when we said that the English is spoken in Australian accent, maybe, or American accent, right? So we are just, focusing on the differences of language which are made by the speech community, right? So this is the community identification, that which accent is used by the speakers, right? There are many Englishes today, like there is British English, BBC English, or maybe the RP accent, which is typical or maybe the most standard dialect of English, variety of English, rather, using as a neutral term, the standard variety of English, okay? But there are more varieties, there are, more points for English, because today there are many Englishes, right? If I use the proper term, that there are many Englishes which are used, like Canadian English is there, Australian English is there, or the English which is spoken in New Zealand, that's again different than others. Then the English spoken in the US, or maybe there are various, varieties which are spoken even within the same country, England, right? There is a Scottish variety of English, or the Geordie dialect of English, which is spoken in the area of Newcastle and the surroundings, right? So there are many varieties of English on the basis of nationalities, and then on the basis of regional geographical locations, right? So as the student of phonetics phonology, we must know that how these varieties are different, okay? And then how can we put those differences into transcription, and then we can focus on those differences while analyzing a language or English, right? So that's the point. And accent differences must be realized while transcribing for a specific accent. Like for specific purpose, when we are analyzing a language, we must know that how is the accent made different, right? British versus English, like as was pointed out by G.B. Shaw, the well-known English dramatist. He said that US and England, they are two different countries divided on the basis of one single language. So you see, that's the difference, which is on the basis of one single language, right? So there is one English, but many varieties. And therefore, there is the possibility of the transcription of different varieties differently, right? So we need to know how to analyze accent difference, and then how to use that difference in our transcription, okay? So accent differences are generally made on the basis of 4 points, okay? Like there are 4 ways through which accent can be differentiated. The first one is the phonological inventories. Inventory is basically the collection of phonemes of a specific language, right? So inventory, when I'm calling a specific inventory for a language, that would simply mean that that's the collection of possible sounds which have the ability to create a difference in meaning, right? So phonological inventories, and like for example, this word strut. It is strut in English, the RP accent, strut, but within like the variety which is spoken in the north of England, they may be using this like strut, right? So strut and strut. So we must know that what difference is made on the basis of phonological inventories, and then also the difference in terms of phonetic features, right? Like some phonetic features may also be regularly realized or pronounced. Like in some of the varieties of English, the t, like sound like t, may be replaced with the glottal stop. Although glottal stop, the sound or a sound, is not properly the part of English consonantal inventory. But in some contexts, and then also in some varieties, it is used. Like, for example, button, but it may be, or like butter, right? So it may be spoken like ba, right? So that t is replaced with this glottal stop. So we should also know phonetic features. And then also the phonological distribution. Phonological distribution is like which templates are possible, under which phonotactics, like what sounds are allowed at which places, right? What distribution. One example, like the major example, is the difference between rhotic and non-rhotic accents, right? Like the RP, the standard RP accent is non-rhotic, basically, right? Like when a word is ending with a r sound, then the final r is not, ideally spoken, right? But in American variety, where the rhotic accent is, spoken by the people, right? In that accent, that R is realized, that r sound is realized, right? Four, and four, right? So 4 and 4. So that's the difference between the rhotic and non-rhotic varieties of English. And then the fourth one is on the basis of lexical distribution. The lexical distribution is like in the varieties spoken in England and Wales, the words like WITH, with, right? So the with sound, they end like with the sound, right? The id sound, ETH, id, right? So the, with. But some varieties of Scottish accent, they actually make that th sound, like the sound is replaced with th sound. So that's a difference which is done on the basis of lexical distribution. So these four ways of making variety a typical accent, that is really important for the students of phonetics and phonology. And such students, they must know how to understand those differences and then how to make them realized within transcription. That's an important point.